Next step, radiator cap. Okay, the next step is to come underneath the car, and you're gonna have this plastic skid plate. Mine's loose already. Right. This skid plate. If it's not, you're gonna come around and check, and there's gonna be a bunch of little bolts. I mean, one, everywhere there's a circle. Two, there's gonna be a little Torx head bolt. You take them all off. You can leave one or take it all off and get it out of the way. It gets messier as we go, so the next is to find the drain plug for your coolant. Right, so to orientate you, we're outside of the car, there's your license plate. Come around right behind it, and you look up, and there's this plastic little screw in there. Right, so it's a flathead screw, so we're gonna loosen it, and how it's in, there's a little clip in there, so once it comes loose, it's gonna start dripping fluid, and you're gonna have to grab needle nose pliers or channel locks or something to try to grab it and pull it out, and then it's going to spray. It's going to spray everywhere, so make sure you have your bucket ready to catch it. Okay, I'm gonna grab a little stubby screwdriver, and our pliers, and let the magic begin. So, get it in there, start loosening it. Shouldn't be too tight. Got a bit to go. So, we're about halfway loose, and it's starting to drip a little bit. Pretty slow, but the looser it gets, the more it starts. Eventually you're gonna cap out, where it feels like no more can come out, and that's true because it's got that little plastic thing I told you about. And there she comes. Well, that's draining. We can get to work up top here. First step, take off the plastic engine cover. It'll just make it easier to work. Okay, the next step is you're gonna have to loosen your belt here. This is a belt tensioner. I didn't know how it worked the first time, so I marked it, but it's spring loaded, so you don't really need to mark it. It's gonna come back to where it was. But for this spot, you're gonna need two tools. A 14mm socket and a flathead screwdriver. So the socket's on loosen. We're gonna start it. I find it was best to start it so it's kind of vertical, close to the cab, because it's only gonna max out so far. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna push it towards the cabin, and it's going to release the belt. Now, to get the belt off, what I found was easiest was to get a flat screwdriver, come underneath the belt a bit, and slide it over. Do this slowly, because where the belt's connected down below, we don't want that to come off, or else it's going to be a pain in the ass to get it back. Once you have the belt off the pulley, slowly release it, and the tensioner is going to cap back past where it was before. And when you take the belt off, make sure your ratchet catches it, or your fingers catch it. And then, to make sure we don't lose it, if you can reach on this bolt here, you can hang it off that. I couldn't reach it, so I'm going to get a flat screwdriver and kind of rest it on that. And that way it won't fall down. For the next step, you're going to need a 12mm socket, and we're going to remove the actual tensioner itself. So there's 3 bolts. One of the bolts is here at the top, easy to see right there. Loosen that. The second bolt is directly below it. Let me get here, start that. Loosen that. And then the third bolt is on this side of the tensioner below. It's hard to see from this camera angle, but just by looking inside you'll be able to find it. So we're going to put the socket on it and release. Once you have them all loose, you can just spin them out by hand and then remove the tensioner. Okay, you're going to remove the last bolt on the tensioner, and as you see, it just wants to fall out. So hold it up, remove the bolt, and she's out. Down there where the bolts you remove for your tensioner, 1, 2, 3 for the tensioner, and then there is the product. There's the thermostat right there. What we're going to want to remove this black piece with the bolts down the corner here, and underneath is your alternator. See these coils of copper wire here? That's your alternator. So you're going to want to put a bag over it, or a rag. If your engine's still hot, I recommend a rag. I recommend a rag anyway, just because a bag's a pain in the ass and wants to rip. And yeah, so we're going to go ahead and put a put a rag over the alternator. And there we go, we got a rag covering the alternator right beneath the hoses that we're going to be working on. If this little plastic guy's in your way here, you can unclip him to get better access to your hose clamps depending where they're located. Mine looks like it's going to be fine, so I'm going to leave it intact. These things are a pain in the ass to take apart. You gotta really work with them. So I find the best way is to use a small pair of channel locks, and I'll try to get some footage of that. Okay, so right now we're going to do the top hose first. It's going to be the easiest to get it off. It's in the way. So here's my small pair of channel locks. And you're going to want to grab the bottom and the top of the clip, the channel locks. If you can see that, right? There's two pieces of the clip, and then you're going to want to squeeze it, which is going to release the clip. So we squeeze it, and that releases the clip. Now it's going to be hard to hold this the whole time and work. So if it's easier, I'm going to show you a trick. So I've got the clip squeezed the channel locks, right? And if I want to free up this hand, I'm going to grab a tie wrap. It's already pre-sized, like a little hole. I'm going to slip it over the handles of the channel locks. And this is going to act like a pair of vice grips and hold them from spreading apart. Now I can kind of let them hang, and the tension of that will hold it, and we can get back to work. Okay, so now we've got the channel locks holding it, with the tie wrap holding that I showed you guys earlier, and we're going to want to try to take this out. Now, when you're doing it, it depends how long it's been since you've ever done this. If it's the first time doing it, it's going to require a lot of effort. So you're going to want to try to get your finger, it's hard to show with the lighting, but where the, see that T is right there? Where the hose is, you're going to want to try to use your finger to push against it to free it up as you're pulling, because if you just pull on the hose, you're going to crack it and rip it. So mine come off pretty easily, so I should be able to just wiggle it up and down here and get it off. Like that. Now she's off, and we're going to take that spring clamp, put it aside for later, and then on to the next one. So I got my channel lock squeezing the clip, got it held together with the tie wrap, and similar process before. We're going to want to wiggle it out. If it doesn't want to come, use your finger and push against where it's seated. Alright, he's free. He was a bit of a struggle, but you know, just keep working at it and eventually get it free. You just don't want to rip it, so be gentle with it. Now to take out the old thermostat, there's going to be 3 8mm bolts. There's one at the top left right here, one at the top right there, and then beneath the one at the top right, there's another one. Some people say they can access it from up here. I found it a pain in the ass, so we're going to go underneath the car and I'm going to show you. Okay, so again, license plate, come underneath the car. There's your oil filter right above me, and we're going to come forward. There's the rag that was hanging off the alternator. You can see the bottom of the alternator is the copper right there. Look up, and right up there you can see that last nut. Right up there you can see that last bolt. You can look over and see that, you know, there's the pipe you remove the hose from. So you're going to want to get at it. I'm going to get the socket on there and show you how to get up in there. But you're going to come up this side and then come over. So right now, we're using the same extension we used before. We got it up behind the wiring harnesses on the bolt head, and you're going to loosen it from here. For getting to them, I found it best to get an extension on your ratchet, so it's about, you know, to the front of the car away. The same size extension worked for all 3. Alright, and there's it with the thermostat out. You got to really make sure, it says you have an old one, that along the edge here, if there's a gasket stuck, to remove all the extra gasket shit that's around there, because the new one comes with a gasket on it, and if we don't remove the old gasket, you'll have 2 gaskets, which equals no gaskets, and it'll leak. Here's the new one. The bolt pattern only allows it to go one way. It looks exactly the same as the old one. It's going to come down in, slide in, and you're going to bolt it back on. Now remember, they are plastic, so as you're torquing them down, don't go nuts. I found it easiest to get the top 2 snug, and then go to the bottom one, get it snug, give it a little torque, come to the top, torque them, and then finish off on the bottom. Okay, now we're going to reverse the process. For your hose clamps, grab them with the channel locks, and then you're in the bottom hose first. You're going to grab the hose in your hand, put this over the hose, and then feed it all on, and then release this to tighten back down the hose. So now that they're back on, make sure that this hose clamp isn't going to rub on the top hose, and that they're seated fully to where they're supposed to be, and then we can work on putting back the tensioner. Find it easy to start with one bolt in the top right here, and we're going to line it up. There's actually little grooves, you're gonna feel it click. Clicks in the spot. Grab this top bolt and twist it in. And then do for all three, and then tighten them down. Okay, once those are tightened down, we're gonna get back to the tensioner here. So where your belt's hanging, make sure your ratchet loops around behind it, and then grab your screwdriver, slide it out. And then this can get a little bit tricky, so just be careful. Keep it over the ratchet so it can't fall, and work your ratchet back until it's on the tensioner bolt. And again, towards the cabin as far as you can go. Slip the belt back over. You can do it by hand and let it come back. I like to give it, so I marked it, it's off a little bit. Should self-tighten itself to it, but you know, it doesn't hurt to set it back to where it was. So after doing that, it's a good time to check that your belt didn't come off the pulley at the bottom here. It's hard to see with the light, but you can shine a light back there and see that the belt grooves are still on the pulley and everything's in check. Next, I'm going to go underneath with the plastic bolt I took out to drain the fluid and put it back in. Once that's back in, put in the plastic engine cover. Grab our funnel. And use coolant rated for Mazda. Start it up, make sure that the suction draws the coolant through. The engine's still pretty cool, so you can look at your min max line, it's supposed to be based off a cool engine. And get it to where it needs to be. So, you're going to want to let it get up to temperature, rev it a bit to get it under stress, create some vacuum, and make sure there's no leaks underneath. And then after that, no leaks, put on the skid plate, and you can call it a day.